What Star Wars character?
Oh, it's already been given to us.
Oh, it has.
Yeah. They sized it up to fit him next year, Halloween time.
So you have an outfit for your baby for this time next year.
Oh, my. And I was just, you and I hadn't had a previous conversation. I was just kind of knowing Mr. Smitty.
That's all you needed to know.
You already have the outfit?
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, and then you take notes, Schmitty, and then for those that have children, listen carefully. Chris Copeland joins us on the live line. So, Chris, what should we know? Is there something new, or are there just some basic common sense things we should be doing when we talk about our kids and trick-or-treating?
So both, actually. Both the common sense and basic stuff that I think most people are aware of, but it's never going to hurt to be reminded. And then there's actually some pretty new tools out there available for parents to make sure that their kids are safe. The first stuff is a lot of people are always concerned about candy, and there's actually no data to support that any candy's ever really been tampered with. But if you're concerned about a particular piece of candy or something that's homemade, throw it out. There's no lack of candy. There's always more candy. Make sure that you carry a flashlight. A lot of people go out when it's still light out, and then they get out and it's dark. So make sure that your flashlights have batteries in them, they work. Cell phones are charged. If you have a preteen or a teen and you're going to let them go out either semi-chaperoned or unchaperoned, make sure they have emergency services numbers in their phone and make sure they know how to dial 911. Or if you want to track them via an app, this is where those new tools kind of come into play. You can track your kids' cell phones apps through any number of parental apps that are available on either Google Play or the iTunes Store. Those are always very useful and helpful. Some of my friends have told me that they have teenagers. Use maps. Don't feel afraid to plan out a map ahead of time or a route to go get all the loot and the candies, and then verify with your state. For you guys in Michigan, there is a Michigan Sex Offender Registry that's available on Michigan.gov, and you can go look up your area and make sure that you're not hitting areas or houses that are known sex offenders.
I guess I'm a little. I guess I approach this a little differently. My kids are younger, but I would never take them to someone's house that I didn't know. I mean, you pick out neighborhoods or people where you know. Is it just common practice just to take kids to an area and let them go to every house on the block?
I guess it depends on the area. It's not uncommon where I live here in Fort Worth that several neighborhoods, several hundred houses together will have an area or a neighborhood, what we would call a development area, to allow kids to come up and down. And I may not know the kids because they're not on my street or my street next to me, but they may be a few streets over. And I think that's very, very common.
Yeah, and you talk about preteens and teens. They know the target-rich environments, and they're going to go forage off on their own, for lack of a better term. So good.
And that's where that technology can come in and really help. You can track your kids' cell phones. You can track their tablets. You can know where they are via a parental app. We use those sometimes to not necessarily punish, but curtail behaviors of our children by allowing access to YouTube and things like that. But the app can also tell you where they are. And so if you're really concerned about that, or you want to keep tabs without keeping tabs directly, you can use those applications.
Not above it. Chris Copeland, a pleasure this morning. Thanks for your time.
You really can't have too much, Donovan.
You can never have too much Donovan.
No, it is the season of the witch. And it's also the time of year when bad guys could try to lure your little trick-or-treater.
Yeah, joining us on the Kogo News Live line is Director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University, Chris Copeland. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So do these real-life monsters really prey on kids during Halloween?
From time to time it'll happen, but not any more so than any other day in the year. The majority of child issues that come along on Halloween are actually sort of things like pedestrian, kids stepping out into traffic, fire retardant, things like that. The normal stuff you would expect to happen at any other holiday.
You know, and when we were kids, boy, there was nothing like dressing up like Darth Vader. I mean, you know, we wore black, we wore huge masks, we probably got run down in the streets. I don't remember. But parents are a lot more cognizant of safety these days, aren't they?
Yes, I think they are, and they have a lot more tools available to them to be cognizant. You know, we live in an information with a 24-hour news cycle and instant access to information, so they have a lot more information available to them to be aware of their surroundings and their child's safety.
Now, when it comes to the predators, how do we know if there are sex offenders in our neighborhood?
Well, there's two ways to find out. One, there may be an app. You know, in Texas, where I'm located, the Department of Public Safety actually has an app for you on your iPhone or on your Android. And that'll allow you to search via GPS right around or search via an actual physical address or in an area or neighborhood. California has Megan's Law, which is available on the State of California Department of Justice website. But I don't know if there's an app for California, but I'm sure that someone has come out with one somewhere. But you know, you can easily look via computer or laptop, tablet, phone, and determine whether or not there are any registered sex offenders in your area.
So should an adult always trick or treat with kids?
It depends on the age of the kid. But, you know, I think adult supervision, even somewhat remote supervision, would probably always be suggested. You know, obviously, if the smaller the child, the younger the child, the more hands-on you're going to want to be. And I think most parents are fully aware of that. But as your kid gets into preteen or teen years, you know, you may have to be hands-off a little bit. You can still be highly involved, though, through the use of mobile applications, parental applications, that allow you to track where your kids are in the neighborhood. You can drive around in the car from, you know, house to house while they go house to house on foot, you know, depending on the traffic in the area. You can still be actively involved, but at the same time, allow your kid that little bit of freedom.
Now, do you know of any known cases of tampering with candy? Because LaDonna and I always say we don't think there's one documented case of a razor blade in an apple, and that's what everybody used to talk about. Go ahead.
My parents did the same thing to me. You know, if people put razor blades in candy. No, there's no documented evidence of that ever happening. Urban myth kind of thing. And used to scare children into being cognizant of their surroundings. But for the most part, candy goes untampered. You know, but if a parent feels that a piece of candy or some sort of treat is ill-advised, then throw it out. There is absolutely no shortage of candy anywhere in the United States on Halloween. You can always get more candy. So don't be afraid to throw something out.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Chris Copeland, who is he is over at the director at the Institute for this is such a long thing. Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University, which is in Fort Worth.
All right. Take a breath.
Halloween is not far away. In fact, it's a week from tomorrow. Is that Halloween a week from tomorrow?
Yes, it's on a Tuesday.
All right. You got to have fun and all the fun things and everything, but safety is also a concern. Chris Copeland, director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Study, Tarleton State U down in Fort Worth. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. How does the guy teach?
Good.
Homeland Security and Cybercrime. I mean, how do you learn all that stuff, Chris?
It takes some time, but you do end up learning quite a bit.
I bet you do. Tarleton State U is university down in Fort Worth. You have a bunch of people want to get in to fight the bad guys then, right?
Yes, and study them so that we can learn how their behaviors work and then teach law enforcement how to react to that.
How do you study a guy from Las Vegas that shoots people? That's weird and crazy, and I tell you what, that's just one of those head shakers in life where you have a lot of things you can't explain all the time in crimes, huh?
That's true. Sometimes it is a head shaker.
All right. Law enforcement trying to help kids stay safe during Halloween trick-or-treating. Any tips for us, Chris?
Yeah, you know, there's the basic common sense stuff. You know, most people are really concerned about either the candy being dangerous or perhaps a pedophile or a child predator. So the easiest things to do are make sure that your children are eating, wrapped candy. Inspect the candy, make sure it's okay. Nothing homemade, that kind of stuff. Adults need to take flashlights. It's something that a lot of people forget until they're out in the middle of the night. Well, not the middle of the night, but in the dark.
Yeah.
That their cell phones and their flashlights aren't charged, that kind of thing. Make sure that if the children are going trick-or-treating at a distance or they're going trick-or-treating alone, that perhaps first responders, 911, or the police pre-programmed into the phones. Use a map, but kind of pre-plan your plan of attack to get all that candy loot. That's always a good idea. And if you work with apps, sometimes the app will relate to your state's sex offender registry or sex offender database. And the one in Texas does. So you can easily download a map of all the local registered sex offenders and plan around those places. Don't go to places that aren't lit.
Yeah.
That's generally the accepted sign. If they have a light on, they're probably welcoming. If the light's off, don't go there. And if you're concerned about your kids or you're concerned about where they're going, use an app like a family tracker or any of those apps that allow you to kind of keep tabs on where your kids are via Wi-Fi.
What age would you say is okay to go by yourself, alone with your friends?
I went as young as 9 or 10 up and down the street by myself, but that was a different age and a different time.
Yeah.
So parents just have to use good judgment, and it's entirely up to them as to what they see fit.
Yeah. But always kind of hang with them, particularly when they're younger, of course. But and I don't know. We talked about this last week, Chris. I don't know when should you stop going door to door to get free candy? I mean, what, age 22, or what do you think? I mean, come on.
For me, it was when I hit 6'7", so that's when I stopped going.
Wait a minute, you're 6'7"?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that would really look strange in a Spider-Man costume, my friend.
Yes, when you start scaring the residents, that's when you should probably stop going to ask for candy.
So what was your background, Chris? Where do you serve? What have you done before teaching?
Oh, I actually came from an IT background, and that's why my area is cyber crimes, specifically child endangerment crimes.
Man.
And then, I got the opportunity to come and teach while getting my PhD, and so I took that opportunity. I had an entire career in information technology before this.
How do you go home at night when you leave it there and not think about all these weird, bad people that you're trying to catch? Doesn't it just get to you a little bit sometimes?
I think it gets to everybody. I certainly have my fair share of reading case files, again, especially against children. And, you have to find a way to escape or release that stress. I exercise. I play with my dogs. I have a very fond love of Legos. And I find a way to keep my inner child at peace and happy.
That's awesome. I spoke to the Police Benevolent and Protective Association State Convention Saturday night and just told them how much we appreciate what they do and how important their work is. And just one guy passed by him. He looked like the Hulk. I said, fella, you ought to think about lifting weights. He said, it's for stress. I said, well, after you're done, you don't have any stress left with looking like you, bud.
Yeah, it does take a toll. And, those kind of societies are extremely important to the work law enforcement does.
Well, we got to be on our toes, got to be aware, including for Halloween. Chris, thanks for all you do and have done, and keep up your fight against the bad guys. We need you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris Copeland. He's director of the Institute of Homeland Security down at Tarleton State University.